Hi, all you guys, gals, and non binary pals. Today I wanted to kind of throw in my 2 cents to all of the other reptile YouTubers out there who are talking about this issue right now. And so I'm not going to go into depth as all the different legislations and things like that they have already done a fantastic job of explaining. And what that is all of right now, at least here in the United States, of all the reptile bans and laws and regulations and all these things that are being put into any and all of the exotic pet things. And so, they've already talked about what happened in Florida. They've talked about the banning of tegus, of the big constrictors, and now the Lacey Act being put back on the table. So that, the Lacey Act being what USARC, great group. I'll put their, just like in the end of all the videos, it's at the end of the description, it's at the bottom of the description of this video and all of my other videos. Go check them out, show them support. The only group that are, fighting for our rights to be able to keep these animals. They managed to overturn in a federal court case our ability to transport quite a large variety and lengthy list of these animals. And now with that being put back on the list, on the table again, is they could not only reinstate that, they could have this incredibly complicated and worrisome thing called a white and a black list, which I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That is super cringy and not really okay with me as far as terminology goes of a white and a black list being good and bad. But sorry, just had to get that off my chest really quick. I know, you understand, don't you, Lily? But what that means is that unless a species is on the white good list, it's injurious to transport across state lines. And so what that means is, something like an agama lizard, a random one like a Spider-Man agama lizard or a toad-faced agama, is not on the white list. It's technically injurious to transport across state lines. So, say you live in Pennsylvania and there is a breeder of them in Nevada. Technically, if that passes, a Department of Wildlife at any of the stops along the way technically have the right to stop that package, open it up, confiscate it, fine you, fine the seller, and possibly put that animal down too, as well as just confiscating it to begin with. So, not great. Hopefully we can fight this a little bit. But like I said, I'm not going to get too much into all the details and everything that's really bad with that. I want to talk about like the extra complications that I'm sure some people have touched on a little bit, but it really kind of hits home for me for a couple reasons. And so the number one is that these bans, so in all the different, there are so many bans on all different states, Oregon, New York, Illinois, Alabama, Alaska, that are not only banning, and you are in the collar here. I'm just going to do this because she's a little jerk butt, aren't you, Lily? For a snake with a short little tail, they can still manage to squeeze those into every little nook and cranny. But so all those bans not only are banning certain animals of lengths, of species, of all these different things, some of them are travel bans. And that to me is honestly the most concerning thing. So, for instance, in New York, which is the scariest and most extreme one, which is no live animal is able to be shipped through the state of New York. It hasn't passed yet. They're still talking about it. But that means goldfish, snakes, hamsters, gerbils, dogs, doesn't matter what it is. If it's a live animal, it can't be shipped. So FedEx, UPS, everything like that, although I know FedEx or UPS doesn't really do that. But in any way, you can't ship animals, which means that if the reptile or whatever trade is going to continue in New York, they all have to be either in-state or private individuals are going to have to drive hours and hours to grab them and then bring them back, which is incredibly taxing, costs even more money. It's not great. And the other part of that, and there goes the collar, and the other part of that is a lot of these animal bans are under the guise of a traveling circus band. And so I get that has a really negative connotation to it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those traveling circuses are just awful. They're horrendous. They, most of them have gone extinct, really. I mean, even the big ones like Ringling Brothers, they're not around anymore. But a lot of these animal rights groups and individuals are, passing it off to congressmen and state representatives and all these other people that aren't really well educated on the subject. Is it's an animal circus ban. It's to prevent animal neglect and animal abuse. But really what that means is that essentially any individual whose their business is to educate makes it now illegal for them to do so. So the only groups that would be able to do this in a lot of these states, including this has come up twice in Colorado in the last 5 years, that unless you're an AZA, so the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, accredited facility, so, one of the larger zoos, one of the larger aquariums, different programs like that are accredited with the AZA, it's illegal to transport them. So what that means is that, what essentially I'm aspiring to do is to be, that guy who shows up at your high school or at your junior high with a big yellow snake, and he shows up all these things and you go, holy wow. And everyone has that memory. And that's kind of what I want to be. That makes it illegal for me to do so. Even if I have all of the insurance, I have all the permits, I have my business and everything like that, that's illegal for me to do. In addition to that, if you're a classroom teacher and you have a pet ball python, a pet gopher tortoise, a pet bearded dragon at home, and you want to bring it into the class just for a day to discuss something on biology or animals or anything like that, that would technically be illegal for that teacher to do so, which is insane to think about. So there's a lot of ramifications for these things that a lot of people aren't thinking about. And in addition to that, so those are all those just like the travel bans and things like that. And then, I don't want to get too much into this, but as far as the actual banning of individual species goes, we have seen that in all aspects of not only animals, but things in general. When you ban it, that doesn't mean they go away. That just means it pushes it underground and criminal activity increases. We saw it with prohibition, with the use of alcohol multiple times in this country's history. They've banned the selling, production, and drinking of alcohol, but never stopped. It just got really bad and very illegal until eventually they ratified it and said, okay, it's fine again, we'll just regulate it better. So when you just straight up ban retics, when you ban bearded dragons, when you ban anacondas, when you ban tegus and iguanas, they're not going to go away. They're not going to leave South Florida. And I'm not going to sit there and say that all of the invasives in South Florida is over-exaggerated. It's a serious problem, and I recognize that. But keeping them out of the hands of responsible keepers and breeders and wanting to educate future people on them isn't going to make that problem go away. They're just going to make good, honest, hardworking citizens criminals. Where are you going, Lily? Where are you going? And in addition to that, when you do things like that, it also kind of staunches a little bit of a lot of industries that people don't necessarily think about. So, obviously, when you have the Lacey Act, and so you have retic breeders and Burmese python breeders and things like that, which I'm not going to say that a retic and a Burm is a great pet for everybody, because they're not. It takes a lot of forethought. And I've done a video about that, and you can watch it right here. But that being said, the ability to not be able to sell them outside of the state that you live in hampers that. And so that means that you probably won't be able to breed that animal. That means that people like me, or who want to do educational facilities or small little collections who want to educate people, won't have the ability to, potentially get those animals in to introduce them to other people to let them know about their existence. And that's not great. And so they lose business. And so then they won't breed them anymore. They will stop buying they'll stop buying rats for them or rabbits for them if they're a large animal. And then that means the people who breed them are now out of business. And then the people that they buy their food and their bedding from, they start to lose business. And the people that manufacture those enclosures, the big large enclosures for the snakes, the rat things, the sheds, all of that, that's revenue lost. All of the USPS and all of the FedEx and all the shipping costs, all of that is lost income and revenue because of these bans like this, because it's what essentially it is are groups lobbying, which is, groups feeding information and paying politicians who aren't necessarily evil, aren't necessarily bad, who just don't know the whole story, aren't well educated on the subjects. And when they hear animal abuse and neglect, it's a red flag for them. And so it's an easy bill for them to just kind of go on through, because not only are they getting paid to do it, it's an easy one. Everybody knows about it, right? Well, there's kind of a big difference between those things. And that's really what I want to talk about. So, and that's the whole point of this video. And I apologize for being so ranty. And I know I do that a lot, but these type of things, they have a lot of adverse complications that a lot of people don't think about, where, it's just still the motto of the only good snake is a dead snake still exists, which is just absolutely horrendous. And I've said this a lot to a lot of the people that I've come in contact with, and I usually give the same speech to different groups or individuals who I want to work with or do videos or projects on. And that's, this is a reptile centered YouTube channel. It's mostly talking about individual species and their care in captivity, but it doesn't end there. Every spark in caring about the natural world and biology and animals starts somewhere. And that spark, that start, is usually some guy like me on YouTube, like Brian Barczyk or somebody else like that, or going to your school or your library, hopefully like me in the future, if things get better and we can move forward like this, that show up and they have the big yellow snake and the big sulcata tortoise, and you can see these things. And a lot of people, a lot of heavily urban places, they don't have the ability to go to places like zoos or have wide open nature parks and preserves and things like that, where they may not be able to ever see them. They may not know that an animal like Lily, who, if you don't know any better, they go, oh, that's a Burmese python. No, it's a boa. Oh, it's a red-tailed boa constrictor? No, it's a Dumeril's boa. They're from Madagascar. What? With King Julian and the lemurs? Yeah, with King Julian and the lemurs. They don't know that. And then that starts a spark. That starts a passion. And that can lead into a lot of other things. That can lead into animal rescue and rehabilitation. That can lead into conservation. That can lead into land management. It can lead into biology. It can lead into eventually studying zoonotic diseases and better moving our understanding of not only them, but us too. And it all starts with a small little spark of seeing a weird dude with a ponytail, because yes, I meet that criteria, on YouTube, or showing up at your library or your school and talking about these amazing, beautiful animals. And with all this legislation and all these bans and all these bills and laws being passed, they make it so it's going to be almost impossible for future generations to know what Lily is, that Lily even exists, what habitat she comes from, where that is in the world, what's going on in Madagascar, specifically Madagascar. That place has been so deforested, 90% of Madagascar is gone for sustainable habitat for all of the populations of animals that live there. And if a kid doesn't see this, doesn't see Lily, if a kid doesn't know about that, how are they going to care? If people don't know about it, how are they going to care? And I'm sorry I'm getting a little choked up about this, but this is really important to me. And that's the truth of this. So if you guys love animals, if you have someone in your life that that love animals, that you care about conservation, about the natural world, about education, about learning, about passion of any kind, please, please, please spread the knowledge, spread the information of these laws so people know more about them. So let us be able to educate future people on these amazing animals. And if you can, please, 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 I know I hate doing this, and it's not like I'm getting anything from this other than hopefully the ability to keep them. Please, if you can, support USARK. USARK, the U.S. Association of Reptile Keepers. They really are the only ones fighting for our ability to keep this. They recently fought an animal travel ban in Illinois, let everyone know what was going on. They even made a 2 or 3 different letterheads that all we had to do was literally go copy and paste of the representative, our name, that, and then a little section to write something personal. They went, you know what? This was right. You're right. This was overreaching. We didn't know the full story, and so they tabled it. It's gone. It's off there. The animal travel ban in Illinois is gone. That happened twice here in Colorado. It's happening in Oregon and all these other places. So they're the ones that are making any sort of difference. And when it comes to this, money makes the world go round. These lobbyists that are telling the politicians about these bills and feeding this information or misinformation, if you want to use that hot button word, they have a lot of money. Billions of dollars for this. USARK doesn't have a whole lot. It's really only a couple people. They're not taking big salaries, because I know that's getting thrown around a whole lot. They're really just fighting for our right to keep these animals. So if you can, if you love education, if you love animals, please, please, please spread the news, spread the knowledge, let people stay informed, inform people, and please, if you can, support USARK. Sorry that I ended this on a bit of a downer, but like I said, I just want to add my 2 cents of this subject, because it kind of hits personal for me, because it's like I'm just getting started into this. Yeah, I've been keeping for a while, but I'm really just getting started in the hobby, in the community, really trying to start out education, and that rug's going to get pulled out from under me before I even have a fighting chance to hopefully educate and spread my passion and love for these animals. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll check you next time for more reptile content.